Prayer for the food shelf. We give thanks for those who first saw a need and created a food shelf at the St. James Church, where this need was attended to for so long. For all the volunteers who make this food shelf run, unload, stack the shelves, shop to find the best possibilities for what we might offer and make the numbers add up with some degree of sustainability. For all those who allowed this move to this new space to take place. For all those who support this effort with their gifts and their donations, we give thanks. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to North Chapel. My name is Hope Yeager and I am the service coordinator today. The words I just shared with you are from a prayer for the food shelf given by Daniel Jantos in May of 2009. Daniel Jantos was minister here at North Chapel for a long time, including when he offered those words. I will share the rest of his prayer with you at the end of today's service. Our current minister, the Reverend Dr. Leon Dunkley, is away on sabbatical until May, and today Judi Greene is here to represent the Woodstock Food Shelf and share her thoughts, reflections, and recollections on its important role in the greater Woodstock community. There are many announcements in your order of service, as well as on the church website, and I encourage you to check those out at some point. I know we have some announcements. Diane has an announcement, for instance.
Good morning. I'm Diane Mellinger. Let us pray. O great being of online auctions, hear my prayer. May the people come forward with their donations. May they rack their brains and realize that they are talented in some area, whether that's whittling or weaving, baking or batiking, pet sitting or party making. May they offer up their Caribbean/Adirondack/Paris abodes for a weekend. May those that have connections call in a favor for a sought-after item or service. May those associated with businesses ask for a gift certificate donation. May they all take pity on the few of us who have agreed to gather and organize and post and gently harangue at great personal peril. And finally, great one, I pray that the masses will visit the online site starting on March 10th and bid often and high until it is done on April 8th. Going once, going twice, amen.
Jane also has an announcement.
Hi, I'm Jane and I'm nowhere near as entertaining. So you will see around some posters that are part of a Smithsonian project for Martin Luther King Jr. and it is reflecting the Poor People's Campaign, which was started in 1968 and is still running now. And the objective of the campaign was to close the economic gap between people who are experiencing poverty and those who are fortunate enough not to. These are on loan to us from the BIPOC Employee Resource Group from Dartmouth. They have been taking a tour around each Dartmouth facility, of which there seem to be many now. And so they are being returned and going back to Cheshire. If you have any questions, let me know and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction because I probably don't have the answer. And now for a little bit of a guilt trip. We all remember Wendy and we all remember the first thought when we saw her coming towards us. Oh, I need to get something for the food shelf. And so we are looking for a new champion, somebody who will take donations from North Chapel to the food shelf once a week, 3 times a week, 7 times a week if you're so inclined, but would also gently harangue us into making our donations more frequent again so that we can support the food shelf. If you feel so inclined, please see Joanne, right? Good, I put the right name in there. Please see Joanne and she'll give you some more information. And if you have any more questions about anything else, I mean, somebody's got to know an answer somewhere. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay. If you are visiting today, we invite you to sign our guest book at the back of the sanctuary. Is there anybody visiting who would like to stand up and introduce themselves? Okay, welcome. Let's see, so we have children's spiritual exploration with Tatum today, yeah. And this is your reminder to turn off or silence your cell phone or pager. After the service today, there will be coffee hour downstairs in the social hall, which can be reached by going down those stairs or down the stairs at the back of the sanctuary. Is there soup again today? Woo, okay, yay. For opening words today, I'm sharing with you the poem On the Pulse of Morning by Maya Angelou. After these words, we will have a time of meditation. A rock, a river, a tree, hosts to species long since departed, marked the mastodon, the dinosaur, who left dried tokens of their sojourn here on our planet floor. Any broad alarm of their hastening doom is lost in the gloom of dust and ages. But today, the rock cries out to us clearly, forcefully, "Come, you may stand upon my back and face your distant destiny, but seek no haven in my shadow. I will give you no hiding place down here. You, created only a little lower than the angels, have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance, your mouths spilling words, armed for slaughter. The rock cries out to us today, you may stand upon me, but do not hide your face. Across the wall of the world, a river sings a beautiful song. It says, come, rest here by my side. Each of you a bordered country, delicate and strangely made proud, yet thrusting perpetually under siege. Your armed struggles for profit have left collars of waste upon my shore, currents of debris upon my breast. Yet today I call you to my riverside if you will study war no more. Come, clad in peace, and I will sing the songs the Creator gave to me when I and the tree and the rock were one. Before cynicism was a bloody sear across your brow, and when you yet knew you still knew nothing. The river sang and sings on. There is a true yearning to respond to the singing river and the wise rock. So say the Asian, the Hispanic, the Jew, the African, the Native American, the Sioux, the Catholic, the Muslim, the French, the Greek, the Irish, the rabbi, the priest, the sheik, the gay, the straight, the preacher, the privileged, the homeless, the teacher. They all hear the speaking of the tree. They hear the first and last of every tree speak to humankind today. Come to me here beside the river. Plant yourself beside the river. Each of you, descendant of some passed on traveler, has been paid for. You who gave me my first name, you, Pawnee, Apache, Seneca, you, Cherokee Nation, who rested with me, then forced on bloody feet, left me to the employment of other seekers, desperate for gain, starving for gold. You, the Turk, the Arab, the Swede, the German, the Eskimo, the Scot, you, the Ashanti, the Yoruba, the Kru, bought, sold, stolen, arriving on the nightmare praying for a dream. Here, root yourselves beside me. I am that tree planted by the river, which will not be moved. I, the rock, I, the river, I, the tree, I am yours. Your passages have been paid. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon this day breaking for you. Give birth again to the dream. Women, children, men, take it into the palms of your hands, mold it into the shape of your most private need, sculpt it into the image of your most public self. Lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for a new beginning. Do not be wedded forever to fear, yoked eternally to brutishness. The horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Here on the pulse of this fine day, you may have the courage to look up and out and upon me, the rock, the river, the tree, your country, no less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the mastodon then. Here on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning. Judi Greene, we welcome you.
Good morning. I'm here to talk with you about the Woodstock Community Food Shelf. Thank you for mentioning Wendy. I hadn't mentioned her here because I hoped that you would, so that's wonderful. Thank you. The title of my reflection is Space and the Woodstock Community Food Shelf, but I don't want you to be misled by that title. I'm not talking about Space, the Final Frontier, or Elon Musk. I'll be talking about the space that we make in our lives and in our hearts that are important to us, and how the Woodstock Community Food Shelf space is important to me. My name is Judi Greene, and I'm the chair of the board of directors and the volunteer coordinator at the Food Shelf. I started volunteering there about 14 years ago. My husband Greg and I moved to the area in 1996 after living in Whistler, British Columbia for 6 years. After a couple of years of renting a house in Bridgewater, we found a special space in Pomfret where we settled and started a family. Our 3 boys are grown and gone now, but we still see them often, which is lovely. Thank you for inviting the Food Shelf here today. Preparing this reflection has given me an opportunity to really think about how much I love the Food Shelf. I love the volunteers, I love our suppliers, I love building friendships with our guests. I hope by the end of this reflection, you will get a sense of who we are and what we do, and the love that exists in our community in the food shelf space. As you mentioned, Martha Lucier started the food shelf 40 years ago this year in the basement of the Episcopal Church. The food shelf gradually grew community-wide by 2008 when we incorporated as a nonprofit. Because of a lack of space in the basement of the Episcopal Church, we moved to the new location, Maxim Meadow Way, in April of 2009, and that's when Daniel Jantos came and made the lovely prayer. We settled in and found our space to be exactly what we need. Jennifer Donaldson was the one who invited me to get involved at the food shelf in the fall of 2010. It took me months to get a slot in the schedule because it always seemed to be full. It seemed you needed an in with the scheduler. A few weeks after Tropical Storm Irene, I became fast friends with the scheduler, Tom, when it was all hand on deck. While volunteering those first furious days after Irene, all conversations seemed to revolve around finding more space. This was my introduction to the Woodstock Community Food Shelf, and more importantly, to the overwhelming generosity of this community. The donations kept coming in by the truckload, and we didn't have enough space to store it. Volunteers kept arriving, and there were no spaces left in the schedule. But when carloads of families would arrive to get food and cleaning supplies and water and anything else that they needed, we were there and willing to do whatever they needed. Most importantly, though, we made space. Space for our guests to be heard, space in our hearts and minds to provide some support and comfort. And the space has grown inside of me over the years. I'm not sure when it occurred to me that I was going to be a food shelf volunteer for life. It may have been in the fall of 2013 when Tom, the scheduler, my new best friend, called to ask if I would do the schedule for a couple of months while he was in Mexico. Tom never came back from Mexico, I don't think, and I'm still doing the schedule and a whole lot more. 3 pivotal events have taken place in the years that I've been involved at the food shelf. Tropical Storm Irene kicked it off for me, so I knew we could spring into action when needed as COVID was changing our world. We needed to make some drastic changes to the way we were getting food to those who needed it. We were going to have to rethink our physical space. I remember at the board meeting on March 10th, 2020, we only talked about COVID briefly. It was suggested that we send some extra food home with the school kids in our backpack program, just in case the school got shut down for a couple of days. 2 days later, our eldest son, who is a senior at St. Lawrence University, called in tears to say that he was being sent home indefinitely, and it was suggested that he bring all his belongings with him. COVID was the second pivotal event. While thinking about what I was going to talk about today, I realized how much our physical space at the food shelf has changed since COVID. The food shelf wasn't just a place to come and get free food. The food shelf is a gathering space, and it was a comfort for many. Pre-COVID, cars would arrive sometimes hours before we opened. Guests would get out of their cars and chat on the road, or they'd come into the space and sit down and wait for the volunteers to set up the shopping area. This was social hour, a time to connect, a time to check in, and a time to share. This was their safe space. But with COVID, all that stopped because COVID meant that there were no safe spaces anywhere anymore. We were now offering food curbside. Our new COVID procedures kept guests in their cars, and masked volunteers had to give them a list on a clipboard of what we had to offer today. The volunteers inside the food shelf would pack a box, load it into the trunk of their car, and off they went. Very, very minimal contact, and definitely no sharing of space. Our guests were still happy to be receiving food, but many were visibly lonely and their safe space was gone. In March 2020, we had a crew of about 48 volunteers. Some were of a certain age and were at greater risk of contracting COVID-19. I remember calling each of our volunteers on the telephone and pleading with them to stay home. because the food shelf space wasn't big enough to keep everybody safe anymore. Many argued, some showed up anyway, because that's who we are. We were pared down to about 8 volunteers during COVID, and we continued to share food curbside until about July 2021. Today we welcome guests back into the food shelf to choose their own food. We're getting to know many new faces, opening our arms again to everyone who was held at arm's length because of COVID. Our guests love to come in and chat. They love to catch up and tell stories, and to give and get hugs. Sometimes we cry together, but more often we laugh together. We are all making spaces for each other again. It's really lovely and something that we've all really missed. We're up to about 46 volunteers again now. Some returned once they felt safe. Some decided to move on. Many new volunteers have showed up, ready to give it a go. Pivotal event number 3 happened this past July, when water raged through our spaces in town again. I got a call at home from my dear friend Mika Seeley, who is a local resident and works for the Vermont Food Bank. She had been in communication with Amelia at the Woodstock Farmers Market. They had fruits and vegetables to be removed from their flooded space. Mika gathered a group of volunteers from the Thompson Senior Center, and I got a group from the food shelf, and we arrived with pickup trucks and coolers at the farmers market. We loaded 2 pickup trucks full and 2 vans full of food, and I mean full of food. And I'm gonna read you the list because it's amazing. Keep in mind this is only what we took and salvaged from the space. The farmers market had already offered all of their staff food, anything that they could take, and the Thompson Senior had taken a load, and lots of people had taken food. We got bushels of tomatoes, bushels of carrots, cauliflower, lettuce, parsnips, squash, potatoes, sweet potatoes, peppers, garlic bulbs, garlic scapes, ginger, lemongrass, apples, oranges, melons, pears, plums, pineapples, strawberries, blueberries, kimchi, goat's milk, cow's milk, almond milk, sour cream, cream cheese, half and half, yogurt, bulk snack mixes, dried mushrooms, quick breads, and bread rolls. All that would have had to have been composted had Mika not been in touch with Amelia. There was a lot of food, really too much food for our space. Some of the items were gonna ripen more quickly than we could distribute them, but fortunately we have a partnership with the Lisson Community Kitchen in White River Junction. They cook and serve food daily, and so they're able to use a lot of the food that we would otherwise have to compost. So we salvaged food on Tuesday from the farmer's market, and on the following Monday when I returned to volunteer, to my amazement, all the salvaged food was gone, so that whole list that I read you, except for a few pieces of ginger and a few blades of lemongrass, which, I mean, so over 100 individuals came between Tuesday and Monday to take food, and that just made us so happy that it didn't go to waste. Excuse me. Our organization has no employees. We operate entirely by donation. Donation of time by our very dedicated volunteers. Donations of food by so many individuals and organizations. And donations of money so we can fill in the gaps. There are several organizations that have made space in their busy worlds for us, and they definitely deserve a mention here. We have an amazing partnership with the Woodstock Farmers Market. It goes well beyond salvaging food after floods. For more than a decade, the Harvest for Hunger money rounded up at the cache has supplied the food shelf with fruit and vegetables from October until May every year. This food is ordered for us. This is not seconds. This is not produce they're trying to get rid of. It's beautiful, local when possible fruits and vegetables. So every time you round up at the cache, know that those pennies build up and feed our friends and neighbors. Our partnership with Change the World Kids has grown over the years. The gardens they plant and maintain at Artistry in South Pomfret supply us all summer with fresh greens and beets and squash and kohlrabi and so much more. And this partnership is special to us because it's twofold. The Change the World Kids benefit from the lessons they're learning through planting and caring for and sharing their produce. But at the same time, our guests have access to food that they might not otherwise try. Because at the food shelf, it's free to them, so they're willing to try even if they don't like it. During 2022, our incredible community donated a whopping 13,527 pounds of non-perishable food, which is a wholesale value of about $23,000. Many of these donations were collected during food drives organized not by us, but by the community and school groups. It's amazing. We never organize a true food drive. It all happens from you guys. That 13,000 pounds does not include the hundreds and hundreds of pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables that are donated through the year by Change the World Kids or various community gardens that are growing extra rows for us. Local farmers who have extra eggs, overflowing patches of zucchini and apples, and all kinds of things. People arrive with donations almost every time we're open, and if we aren't there to receive donations, there's a box outside that is often overflowing. It's wonderful and crazy and amazing, just amazing. As we all adjust to life post-COVID, we've seen a surge in numbers of guests that we're serving daily. In fact, last month, we noted a 47% increase in numbers of guests receiving food, and that's just comparing last January to this January. Though the majority of those guests have Woodstock addresses, it's important to note that we will serve anyone who walks through the door. We have guests registered from 32 other towns in Vermont and 4 from New Hampshire. Some of those families also benefit from a backpack program that one of our volunteers started. 75 students are included in that group. She arranges to have bags of food distributed to the schools, and then the school nurses and guidance counselors distribute them from there. Same at the middle school, we have a pantry of sorts that the guidance counselors can distribute as needed. The one constant through my years at the food shelf is the generosity of our community. And this is really the point that I want to make and emphasize here. We would not survive without our dedicated community of donors and volunteers. It amazes me every day that our entire operation functions solely through your kindness. Our mission statement is, in order to alleviate hunger, the Woodstock Community Food Shelf Incorporated will maintain an open, well-stocked food shelf, providing basic need to our neighbors in times of need. I would add to that the food shelf is a space where there is no judgment. Guests are treated with respect and dignity, and it's a safe space where all are welcome. I feel very fortunate to be able to share space in my life and in my heart by giving back, but I have to admit, I feel like I get a lot more than I give. Thank you.
Thank you, Judi. As promised, and as benediction today, I'm going to read you the rest of the prayer for the food shelf from Reverend Daniel Jantos. We give thanks and give voice to this hope that within this space, upon these shelves, people will find not just food, although we hope they will always find that in some abundance, but that they will also find a community's answer to the fear that so many know, many who may never come through this door, the fear of what if I ran out? What if I fell on hard times? What if I was hungry and had nowhere to go? May everyone in our community and beyond know that upon these shelves and within this space, at least, they will find an answer to that fear, a generous and unequivocal, we will be here for you. We will take care of each other. And so may this community food shelf be, in so many ways, our assurance to each other that within this community, kindness and consideration are always stronger than fear. So be it.